Hello and welcome to our second episode of Bharat Journey, where we bring you India's automotive stories one at a time. Today's story is about two friends with a dream. Top speed record, quarter mile record, everything done.
There's no other performance electric manufacturer two-wheeler in the country.
For us, it's not just about sourcing a battery pack, it's about designing one because it doesn't exist anywhere else in the world.
Would you be open to doing battery tech for other companies?
We had only one shot to get it right.
In fact, we've been getting these opportunities actually for quite some time.
So there were 5 different ideas evaluated for the scooter project. I'd also like to add, we don't use AI in this room.
When that goal is in sight, you want it quick.
See, that goal post keeps moving. So I don't know what our goal is.
We were at EICMA last year, we were at EICMA the year before.
There, it wasn't about which country you're from or anything of that sort. It was just visually the vehicles were getting people's attention.
If anybody steals this part and then puts it to another vehicle like an aftermarket, it wouldn't work.
Ultraviolette is a rising force in the world of electric mobility. This Indian startup, founded by two close friends, Narayan Subramaniam and Neeraj Rajmohan, has carved out a niche by building high-performance electric motorcycles that blend cutting-edge engineering with bold design. After proving their mettle with the critically acclaimed F77, they're now setting their sights on expanding into broader segments of two-wheeler electric mobility. What truly sets the Ultraviolette apart is their deep-rooted love for aviation, which is evident in nearly every aspect of the brand. It's clear that aviation just isn't a part of the influence, it's a part of their DNA.
We've always ended up working on, different kinds of projects, whether they were robotics or cars, boats, planes, quadcopters, drones.
So how come you didn't go down that path?
Maybe that's yet to come.
This is the Ultra in Ultraviolet.
You guys were in school together. Was it always a plan to build something together, or did that happen out of the blue? Tell me about it.
So we've known each other since we were, I think, 8 years old. We've always ended up working on, different kinds of projects. So we've won about 40 competitions working on all these different things.
So winning is inherent, right?
Yes. And
Or the desire to win.
Yeah.
We, of course, didn't end up winning everything. But the approach was a 0-1 approach where we would try to do something fundamentally disruptive or different.
It has to be at the top.
Yes. And earlier, there were a few occasions when things didn't pan out the way we wanted it to. But over time, the percentage of winning these competitions kept.
When started to accumulate, and then we realized this is what we're good at. Right?
Yeah.
So it was bringing together different disciplines and sort of engineering something, bringing together sort of science, tech, art.
But after school, both of you kind of went your separate ways. You studied in different places.
Right.
One of you went on to do design, one of you went to tech. How did it come full circle back together?
The way the tech has evolved in the consumer electronics space, the same has it reflected in 4-wheelers and 2-wheelers in the auto industry.
We were always talking about these side projects and things. So in 2009, 2010, we were talking about starting a drone company right? And fully autonomous drones, things like that.
And we've sort of evaluated hundreds of Kickstarter opportunities.
Yeah.
Right? That was the era where Kickstarter, Indiegogo and these.
How did you settle on this?
I think in 2015, 2016, I think it sort of converged because we had started to realize that this is, the mobility space could use this kind of innovation that we are thinking about. Around the same time was when Tesla started to take off, and we realized that what is happening in the Indian ecosystem, Indian industry, is lacking that kind of innovation, and that's where we thought we were talking about starting Ultraviolette, and then 2016 is where we formally started.
Was it that instinct of being avid bikers that made you push the limits first in this direction, the performance direction? And of course, I want a bike that's going to break all records.
Oh, it was surprisingly very logical. When we sat down to figure out what we want to do, one thing we do well is keep emotions out of the picture when we're taking hard decisions. So we looked at the EV spectrum. There is your low-end mopeds, then you have the scooter markets, mid-segment motorcycles, and then you've got the performance-oriented motorcycles, and then you've got superbikes. Superbikes didn't make commercial sense. The volumes in the markets that we are starting out with are minuscule. And world over, if you see, companies are slowing down investments in liter class bikes. It's all converging towards the 300 to 600 cc category. And this also gave us an avenue where volumes are meaningful and the segment has a lot of emotional attachment to the product, right?
From there on, it's been an incredibly interesting journey.
I mean, you said drones, right?
Yeah.
So how come you didn't go down that path and, think of something in that aviation industry and come down to earth actually?
So I think for us it was about mobility as a whole. Of course, the ultimate sort of form of mobility.
Maybe that's yet to come.
Yes, maybe it's yet to come.
You know, two friends working together. I know college projects is different, but when you run a business and it has implications and, you know, the dynamics are never easy. Were you guys ever worried that, you know, I don't want to do business with friends and I might spoil the friendship?
Period of working through hard times, we had endured quite a bit of that, self-inflicted for a huge part of it, but we did go through that. It gives us comfort in outright trusting each other with knowing that whatever the decision is, it is in the right interest of Ultraviolette.
Obviously, when you go through the hard times, there's always going to be one guy that says, shit man, should we just give this up? Or what are we doing?
No, that one guy is not in this room.
Yeah.
So, of all the things that we've argued over, fought over, you know, all of that, it's never ever come up that should we give up, right? So that's one thing I think both of us stand for, which is that no matter how hard it gets, we'll just, you know, fight our way through it.
So what do you fight over? That's interesting to know, huh?
So it's usually, you know, we may have arguments in terms of how to go about something, right? Which is the right way to do it, or which is a logical way, and logic and reasoning and rational coming to these things. It's less about emotions, and that's the comfort that I think we've built over time.
We had only one shot to get it right. We didn't have the possibility of successful fourth product out. What we put out there on day one has to meet the requirements of a fabulous looking identity for a futuristic vehicle. It had to meet the performance requirements. It had to meet the tech requirements of being the most advanced vehicle. This meant not just the two of us, but in the early stage, maybe 50 members of the R&D team. Over time, that 50 has become 250 today. But everyone has to have that cohesive, collaborative mindset.
Now, how did Ultraviolette bring their first bike to life and what really went on behind the scenes? Well, we got an inside look thanks to Narayan Subramaniam, who not only co-founded the company but also leads design at Ultraviolette. He walked us through their cutting-edge design studio, offering a rare glimpse into the creative process that shaped the F77 and other products.
The genesis of all our concepts and ideas often emerges from the design studio. I think when it comes to design, everybody here, all of us are very much involved right from the research stage to understanding who the customer of tomorrow or the consumers of tomorrow are, what trends you see in different parts of the world, where is India when it comes to, you know, absorbing trends either from the east or the west. Can we sort of lead the trends for the other parts of the world, which is what our core intent was with the F77, and you see that represented on the Tesseract that we recently launched. Let me walk you through what a typical process might look like. I mean, of course, today you're going to see various stages of different projects.
Okay.
But what you see here, for example, some of these are the very early stage sketches of the Tesseract scooter. I'd also like to add, we don't use AI in this room. Okay. So the human skill and intellect for a nuanced product is way more advanced than what AI, of course, is a tool to help you in the process, but doesn't help in the genesis of the idea.
AI ultimately, I think, is just lifting existing information and putting it, whereas human touch is creation, right?
Very, very well put. What you see here is often the next stage where you have a certain form development and then you sort of correlate it and get a more photorealistic understanding of what the actual product could look like. So there's a lot of back and forth that happens here, and the most important part of a two-wheeler, human and vehicle integration. The ergonomics is a key part of that, of course. Ergonomics applies at various levels. One is your rider triangle, next is your comfort on the seat, reachability to the access to the ground. We do testing with, of course, different types of people on the vehicles. Then the next level of ergonomics is the screen visible. So all that happens in clay. Then we do a 3D scan of the clay, and that scan data gives us a 3D mesh, and then the clay data comes back as a base for us to refine it from a production ready standpoint.
And when you give this to like a supply chain or a manufacturer, how many times does it kind of still go back and forth from like maybe the first mold to this? How accurate can you get it?
I think with each product we've developed, the loops have reduced. Of course, with the F77, there's a lot of back and forth. It was big learning for us also. And if you look at the motorcycle, the real estate of the side body panel is quite large. How do you mount it securely? Look at how there's no visible screws, nuts, bolts anywhere on the exterior.
On the panel,
Yes. So that's a lot of engineering and design innovation that's gone into figuring out things that often you don't really prioritize. So for us, we've treated the F77 like an art showcase, bringing it to life with whatever means possible there. And then all of this data comes here to the actual visualization. So here it goes from a cool sculpture to a fully detailed spec'd out motorcycle.
When you go into your first bike design, and obviously this is also your baby, it's your startup, it's your first bike design, what were the challenges? And that process obviously would have been longer to the first bike than, okay, the second and then the third.
Of course,
right?
yes. Right. The challenges were, I would say, across both design and engineering. In terms of breaking down the challenges, the layout of the vehicle was a very large challenge, because now we have a battery pack that weighs 50-60 kgs. On a petrol bike, what happens is you have an engine block that is about 15 kgs, a fuel tank of 10 kgs. Both are offset at different levels on the vehicle.
Your center of gravity is going down to 1 point here.
Yes. Now, taking all that into account, that meant a new chassis altogether. That is where the aerodynamic or the aviation background came into play. Some of our team members on the mechanical side come with a aerospace design background, where they've been designing landing gear systems for various aircrafts and projects of that nature, which require you to go down to basic physics and then solve ground up.
Correct.
That's how we solved for the chassis.
Because a chassis is a base not for just that one vehicle.
Yes.
It becomes a base for your
Platform.
future. So it's like literally like everything that there is to the company.
But I'll tell you one thing that really helps push things is everybody in this room, or most people in the company, are fanatics about automobiles and motorcycles. Probably 20 people here, but we would cumulatively maybe
All
own
be
50
riders,
motorcycles. Yeah.
What were the learnings from the first bike?
The feedback point that was coming to was a few people requested for a more upright riding posture. They absolutely love the ballistic mode. They love the design of the vehicle. But am I going to be riding 50-60 kilometers on a daily basis with a sporty stance was a concern, which is what led to the genesis of the Super Street. Some feedback that came in was we had 3 levels of regen, but the regen felt quite mild. Could we have more active regen? So the next 10 months after we launched the Gen 1 went into getting a lot more of these features integrated onto the same platform. So then we came up with 4 levels of traction control, from something as slippery as ice and snow to track usage where you don't want intervention. Then we had a Violet AI that came in, which was entire software innovation that forms a stronger connect between you and the vehicle and your after sales experience as well. And we give all of this free of cost to the first generation
Consumer.
Yes. All right. So coming from the F77 and the 99 to what you mentioned, more mass-oriented segments, the scooter segment with the Tesseract. Our aspirations as a company when we started out was be the best in terms of design, tech and performance, no matter what segment it is that we want to get into. So for us to get into a scooter segment, we wanted a very strong handle on the costs so that it makes business sense for a company to get into this space.
At Ultraviolette, the bar always seems set exceptionally high. There's a deep synergy between design and tech teams that elevates everything they create. You know, in most companies, design and engineering are often at loggerheads. Yeah. Is that the way it works with you guys as well?
Like in larger OEMs, there are these silos, right? And there's a sort of wall between them and the interactions are limited. Here, the same people are working on both sides, which is a designer who's building or sketching something, is also thinking about the last stage of development, which is how a supplier is going to build this product out or manufacture this.
And I'll tell you the kinds of problems in hindsight, they, may not be as relevant, but in the same building that we're out of, this was our R&D, post which this became the UV hangar today. And we have a passenger lift outside, which you would have seen, right? And that lift can accommodate about 6 to 8 humans. The way this building was structured, ground floor was prototyping, floor that we're on, 1 was design and mechanical engineering, 2 was battery tech and motor charging tech, etc. All need access to heavy equipment and the motorcycles. So the team took 2 weeks out from designing vehicles. We designed a hoist system where you lock the front axle and that gets hoisted vertically, and that entire contraption fits exactly within 5 mm of the boundaries of the lift, right? And then we put it in the lift and then...
So the bikes would move up and down in the passenger lift.
You guys hate to really have outside influence. You like to do everything yourself. I've heard him say we took out 2 weeks because we decided this testing machine equipment was too expensive. So to hell with it, we'll design it ourselves.
Right.
So is that the kind of philosophy that you guys have as a company as a whole, that a lot of it needs to be inbuilt?
I don't think just for the reason that it has to be built in-house, but there's usual reasons, right? Like even if you're talking to an outside party to buy equipment, things like that, there's weeks of negotiation, there's weeks of finalizing what, the specifications of something that you would require. There's so much back and forth, and that time is lost. So in that same time, is it possible that a small bunch of scrappy designers, engineers can just come together and
I don't think they're scrappy when I look here, but
right. No, but at the early stages, when we need something to be done quickly, it's possible that we can pull together the team and make it happen, and we take that shot.
So you guys seem to be the kind of guys that want everything to happen snap. Are all your decisions like snap decisions? You don't mull over anything,
But we take time to decide, but once we do, we want to move fast.
What were the key challenges you faced and how did you overcome them?
I think one big one that we haven't spoken about, but today it's the secret sauce of Ultraviolette is the team. And finding the right people was an incredibly hard challenge. It's not, like a lot of people think as a startup, you go put up a job description and say there are 10 openings, but that's not how it works. And we would find this right combination of people, who have anywhere from 10 to 15 years of experience and who are still hungry to take on more, right? The entire team that has been built up has come from 3 different domains. They come from a consumer electronics background, which means that they've been working, at companies building out the best smartphones, the best consumer electronics devices. Then there are people who come from the aerospace domain, right? People who worked at Safran on Boeing, Airbus projects, people who worked at ISRO, and both on the mechanical engineering side as well as on the avionics electronics side. And then the third part is people who have come from the automotive industry, because working with the same supply chain is important. Now when we look at the company and we look at the team, we're able to realize that, this is why we're successful.
There are many factors behind Ultraviolette's rising success, and a visit to their relatively compact factory on the outskirts of Bengaluru offered an even deeper insight. Despite its size, the factory is a hive of precision, innovation and energy. What makes it even more remarkable is the person at the helm. Vinayak Bhatt, a former ISRO engineer whose background in space-grade engineering brings a level of discipline and technical excellence that is rare in the automotive world.
Firstly, welcome to Ultraviolette's factory, and this is by all means one of the futuristic factory, I would think. And what happened a couple of years ago is that we designed and manufactured, or rather we wanted to bring India's, or rather Asia's largest battery pack into the world. These battery packs are the first in India to be Europe certified, and by that I mean they're literally UNEC compliant, and that helps us to sell these vehicles across Europe and several other countries, and that's the same vehicle that we sell in India. So Ultraviolette was always meant to have products taken to the world. It was a company that said, India has the ability to not import technology. India has the ability to inspire others and make aspirational products. Why do we have to rely only on the East or the West to have all of these dream machines? We can create on our own, and it was meant to change that perspective. There was a lot of decision making that had to go in, that if we were to put this much of weight and volume on a pack, what all gets compromised? And I think we had to take that call because we want to extend the range as much as possible. Once the battery packs are made, they start off at the subline.
Okay.
The subline basically puts together the fundamental blocks which make a motorcycle rolling chassis. Now this is what we call the Ultraviolette platform, and it's not about just creating the F77, but this platform can do a lot more. We've kept things modular. So the main frame, the battery pack and the gearbox, and the motor and the gearbox. These 3 things are so powerful that you can make multiple products out of it. And you can see that it's a very lightweight construction. There's no chassis here.
Yeah.
So the battery pack, the motor mount is the structural member for the whole vehicle. So it acts as a chassis. There is no member connecting from here to here. The battery pack shares the load, the motor mount shares the load. And this motor mount also is again patented, where it not only brings together this part, the seat frame, the suspension, the swing arm, but also houses the motor and then the gearbox itself. There's a single step production. So it's doing 5 functions at the same time in the lightest weight possible. So a lot went in to make it seamlessly as what other motorcycles are. So once that reaches that stage, it is picked up and kept onto the main line. From here, the main line essentially brings it up from a rolling chassis all the way to a fully faired motorcycle with all the wiring and everything. We've created air channels. There are fins that you see. Mm-hmm. You can see the fins of that, as well as this guy.
Yes.
So the air basically gets sucked in
to the back,
and then cools the inverter as well as the battery pack, and the motor then exits out. This is the hottest component. This is less hot.
How long is the process for like the entire assembly, like each bike?
Right. So it takes roughly about 4 to 8 minutes at each station, which brings it to about 30 to 40 F77 can roll out of this line in one shift. So here is a very critical station where the vehicle comes live, and this is what I was talking about, the vehicle control unit made by Ultraviolette. This state-of-the-art board is basically a patented device by us, and it's a system that incorporates multiple things on one board. And when I say that, there are 3 critical functions that vehicle control unit does. So one part of it basically tells when you apply throttle, how much of torque is being delivered to the motor in a very quick millisecond manner. The second part of the system, which is completely independent of the first part, is responsible for your infotainment. The infotainment system hangs or fails or slows down. It does not affect the primary drivability of the vehicle. The third part is your modem. So this has LTE connectivity, your 4G, 5G, your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. All that it's a connected vehicle. And that's the beauty of this line, because nobody takes a laptop and then flashes a firmware or anything like that. The moment the key is turned on, it recognizes that it's on this vehicle, picks up the most updated software, and then flashes itself. So that is again completely made by us. We write the code, we make the PCBs, so that if anybody steals this part and then puts it to another vehicle, like an aftermarket, it wouldn't work.
When all of y'all are really new to the automotive field, right?
Right.
What were the big challenges in setting up this, and
I
the
think
biggest hurdles you faced at the outset?
I believe it is actually the supply chain, and I say this not from a fact that we are disappointed, but in many ways it's the industry's pace of working. So the pace at which those companies work is not matching the pace at which we want to innovate. That's the biggest hurdle, which is why things take time. It may be simple to perceive that, oh, okay, you can come up with different products and everything, but to get it and trickle it down to a mass production scale, that's a challenge. There is no benchmark for this. India doesn't have an electric vehicle, or the world doesn't have an electric vehicle of this scale, this performance, and we had to create our own benchmarks.
Although Ultraviolette still operates from a relatively modest factory, the company has experienced significant growth in recent years. Its R&D teams have expanded to around 250 members, while the production team now includes approximately 150 personnel. Despite this growth, Ultraviolette maintains a grounded approach. Unlike the flashiness and extravagance often seen in other startups, the company has also bolstered its marketing division by bringing in fresh talent to lead an assertive campaign promoting its electric motorcycles. We've been through many departments of Ultraviolette now, and actually really interesting to see how the product has come to life, what the vision was. But I think it's a job for you guys to actually translate that vision and what the product really is to the consumers out there. So how tough is that job, or how easy do you think it is?
It's both easy and tough. The easy part is because the product does speak for itself and carries its own weight. The tough part is navigating 3 battles. The first battle is that, of course, electric motorcycling is new, and motorcycling paradigms are coded to the Ice Age. The second bit is, at this price point, people have been very used to buying brands from the East or the West and not Indian brands. And the third bit is narrating this performance story in the electric age. So 3 battles are what we fight.
And how do you change mindset? Because it's about changing mindset from ICE to EV, like you said, from like a brand to something that's absolutely new.
To be honest, it's not easy, right? Because the entire EV motorcycling industry itself is at such a nascent stage, and we are actually the only player in the segment. There's no other performance electric manufacturer, two-wheeler in the country. So it is a shift from a consumer's mindset as well, to be able to actually give electric motorcycling a shot. Because when you actually ride the motorcycle, then it blows your mind away. So that trick is to get them in. And once you get them in, is to get them a test ride. And once they do the test ride, 80% of the job is actually done. But right now, I would say with the 2 products we have, slowly we are turning heads and making waves.
After gaining an understanding of Ultraviolette's formative years and taking an in-depth look at its cutting-edge design studio, compact but efficient production facility, and dynamic marketing team, one thing is abundantly clear. This is a company fueled by passion, vision, and relentless drive. We caught up once again with the 2 founders to find out. when that goal is in sight, you want it quick, right?
See, that goal post keeps moving. So I don't know what our goal is. I mean, 10 years back, if you said we'd be here, we'd be like amazed at what the outcome could have been. But today, of course, the goal is a lot different. But I think more than that, it's having done this, getting down to the smallest details. I think you, at a point, become aware of the inefficiencies. And it's that desire to take those inefficiencies of time out of the system and get things moving cohesively.
Do you feel that now, having achieved so much, your goalposts also become bigger? Yeah?
It is, and that's one of the reasons why we had the recent event. We want to sort of fast forward everything that we're doing in terms of platforms, types of vehicles that we're sort of introducing, and the kinds of technologies that we're introducing, right? For the first time, we have a scooter with a radar. There's no other two-wheeler anywhere else in the world which, at that price point is bringing together some of this tech.
And is that the philosophy? Because there are a lot of firsts. You have a lot of patents on a lot of technology that you've developed. The first superbike from an Indian company. This hasn't been done before. We're going to go there and do it.
The only thing that sort of helps with, being sort of setting a benchmark or a target like that is the speed of execution. You want to continue to be the first, so then you're operating at a certain pace.
Being creative, understanding the technology is one part of it, but you have to finance this business, right? How hard was that process? What were the challenges? How difficult was it convincing people, hey guys, back my dream?
So, finding the right set of people usually is the hard task, which means it involves hundreds and, for us, probably close to 1,000 meetings now. But once you get through that phase and identify that these are the parties or people that we would want to work with, and they also identify us as, companies like us they want to invest in, then it becomes easier. So for us, the good part is that today we have a set of investors who have sort of believed in us and believed in the long-term vision.
But early days, like you said, were super difficult, right? Because we were among the very few hardware companies, and India had seen a lot of startup investment by that point in e-commerce and SaaS companies, right?
If you think about it very logically, usually, thinking that you're taking lots of small bets where you think they're all low risk, but the low risk all accumulates to, failure.
Yeah.
But that one seemingly high risk bet actually over time reduces risk and, turns into something very different.
And what Neeraj is articulating is exactly probably the mindset of our first investor, a person called Vishesh, who's now running a fund. One of the very few entities in India that is focusing on outrageous bets in deep tech. They've got investments in space tech,
drones,
chemical industries, drones, robotics,
new battery chemistries.
You guys even have Dalkar Salman, I think, who invested in the dream. He's a guy who's passionate, so I guess he got the dream pretty easy. But you also have TVS on board, right?
Yes.
How has that been? Because, there's obviously a lot more scope than just investment from them, like knowledge share, technology, things like that, and vice versa for them. Because, for them, this is new as well, and they're getting a lot of development that you guys have already done.
The relationship has matured over time. Obviously, we get the benefits of them being a shareholder, but also our interactions with them on various occasions when it comes to the supply chain and things like that. So we've benefited from all of that.
And they're among the few companies in India that is gung-ho on electrification and growing the brand globally, right?
Would you be open to doing battery tech for other companies? Would you be open to, maybe
IP or licensing?
Yeah, IP or licensing, chassis, frames, batteries, any of the patented technologies, Supernova for that example.
Sure.
Yes, in fact, we've been getting these opportunities actually for quite some time. I remember there were people reaching out to us a couple of years ago, asking for the battery packs to be used in speedboats, right, for marine applications. And there have been people asking for batteries for launch vehicles. And all of these things are, opportunities for us. It was just that we had to keep our focus very directed towards the F77 and what we recently announced. But these are things that we'll take up over time.
So tell us a little bit about the future, the plans, the new dreams, the bigger goalposts of Ultraviolette.
The way we are envisioning building the company or have gone about it so far is companies like Sony, Apple, Nike, Dyson. You wouldn't find too many automotive examples here that have done something outrageous and made it happen and continue to do that over and over and over again, which is why some of these have been relevant over decades, right? And we still look up to some of these brands. You wouldn't find us talking too much about too many automotive companies because this is the nature of the or the DNA that we want to cultivate and build. And that means really quick turnaround in terms of our product development cycles, a keen eye out to keep innovating, a very very strong community building endeavor where the community is feeding back a lot of the ideas and feedback, and that goes into our subsequent product launches. It also means taking Ultraviolette global. In fact, in a few weeks.
Yeah, in a few weeks, our vehicles will be available in Germany, Spain, Austria, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Italy, France. I think for us, it's been a super exciting time. And there are bikes actually running on the roads.
Monumental milestone.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I was just about to ask you because I saw you guys at EICMA last year. And what was that reaction and how was it for you guys?
So people from different nationalities, there were, German engineers who are coming there and appreciating the design and, praising us for what we've done here. And, there were people from, different other parts of the, world taking photographs of every single aspect of the motorcycle.
Well, when you talk about Bharat Journey, this is truly Bharat Journey, right? An Indian company that's getting the world to talk about us. And I think that's the way it should be. And it's great to see small dreams become big. Well, it's been amazing talking to you guys. And I think I could still go on, but I wish you more success on this journey, and I'm sure I'll be back in this office very soon with new stories for you guys to tell. But thank you for sharing your Bharat journey with us.
Sure,
Thank you.
wonderful. Happy to be talking to you, and
Thank you for, coming here.